Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation podcast network.
Welcome to Talking Head Pain, the podcast that confronts head pain head on. Hi, I'm Joe Coe, Director of Education Digital Strategy at the Global Healthy Living Foundation, and a migraine patient for over 20 years. Navigating life with migraine can be tough. There are so many elements of our lives that are simply out of our control, from the stressors in our daily life to the weather forecast in a given day, even to the rooms we're in. Today's guest on Talking Head Pain focuses on the space that we are able to take control of. Danielle Fujii is a migraine patient, environmental designer, and creator of Zden, a sleep tent specifically designed for people with migraine to help get a better night's sleep. Danielle, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
And how are you feeling?
Today's a good day. I'm feeling great, actually. It's not too hot. It's not too bright out, so it's a good day. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm living the dream, as they say.
Nice.
So let's jump right into my first question. Can you describe your worst migraine attack?
I think my worst migraine experience, although at the time I did not know that it was a migraine because I hadn't been officially diagnosed, was when we were on vacation in Hawaii. And I didn't realize at the time, though, that light and nausea and vomiting, unfortunately, are my auras. And I thought that I had eaten something bad in Hawaii. But in reality, it's extremely bright in Hawaii. It's gorgeous, but it's bright outside. And so while everybody else was out, I was sick probably for about 3 days in the room with the blackout curtains that they did have at the hotel that wouldn't close in the middle. So there was still light in the room, but I just curled up in a ball and curled up in the bathroom, worshiping the porcelain god for 3 days until I finally said, I think I have to go see a doctor on the island. And they gave me a pain and an anti-nausea injection. And I walked out feeling like a new person. I mean, I felt so much better. And it was at the time, like I said, I didn't even know that it was a migraine, but probably about not even a year later when I was officially diagnosed. And every time since I've had to go into the emergency room or to urgent care, it's always the same thing that I need. It's an anti-nausea and pain medication. So I would say it was the worst only because I was out to have a wonderful time with my family and it was ruined because of a migraine.
Thank you for sharing that experience with us. It's so important for people to know that we can plan these dream vacations and trips, and a migraine attack can really mess it all up, and it's not our choice. Really am intrigued by your background as an environmental designer and a person living with migraine. Can you share with our audience what environmental design is and how you have used that expertise and information to help people that live with migraine and related disorders?
I would say that environmental design is designing and creating the space that surrounds all of us. Actually, when I went to school back in the late 80s, environmental design was all encompassing, whether it was architecture, visual merchandising, so how stores, fronts and interiors of stores are set up, interior design, it was even fashion. It was kind of a broad mix of everything. And so I've kind of taken the environmental design side and used that to be a design consultant now, where I do a lot of graphics. So everything that you see that's around your environment, such as billboards, PowerPoint presentations, ads in newspapers, logos, etc. Also designing interiors. So interiors more along the lines of how the spaces in which you live. So the colors, the windows, locations, the skylights, how much light that you like to have. And I've kind of morphed that into learning more about the environment, I guess, that I'm in personally for when I started getting migraines and being a lot more conscious of the way the light comes into the room, the way that it might reflect off the neighbor's wall that's next to you, or making sure that skylights have integrated built-in shades so that you can close them. So you can have as much light as you want when you're having an amazing, great day and you're not having a light sensitivity event, but you can also close those so that you can still be able to enjoy and be able to tolerate the day without feeling sick or triggering a major migraine. And when I say major, I mean one where you're going to have to feel like you want to crawl into a hole and spend the rest of the day doing absolutely nothing but being in the complete dark.
I thought it was so interesting when we spoke before this interview about how environmental design can be used to help migraine patients. We often hear about environmental triggers and all the ways in which stimulation can impact us when we live with migraine. And there are things that we can control and things that we can't control. And it sounds like environmental design is something that we can control. So it's really interesting to bridge those worlds. I would love to know what your biggest environmental design faux pas is, or what grates at you if you see in the world from an environmental design perspective.
Near us right now, a new mall was, actually I shouldn't say a new mall was built. A mall was completely redone. So Westfield Valley Fair Mall. And what they did is they took out all of the overhead walkways. It's an interior mall, it's an inside mall, and they put in all windows and skylights, which are gorgeous, which are amazing looking. But unfortunately, when you walk through, and if you feel like you have to have sunglasses on when you're on the inside of the mall, which I don't like. Obviously, if I'm feeling fine, for me, if it's a beautiful blue sky day, no problems. If it's a hazy day, that's a big problem because there's so much white and glare. And when you enter into some of these malls and you see that, it's almost overwhelming. And I know that it's not just going to affect people who have migraines. It's also going to affect people who even maybe just have like a regular headache. If you have ADHD, if you have a brain injury, or if you have epilepsy, there's these certain things that where there's too much light is not a good thing. And in these malls, if there's nothing they can ever do about it, it's not like you can cover these gorgeous skylights and make it any darker. And I'm not saying that, of course, it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it's different than before when it was an enclosed environment and you had artificial lighting. And I know that artificial lighting is also an issue for some people, especially the new LED lights. LED lights, although you can't see it with your naked eye, the refresh is different than like an incandescent bulb. So, and I mean, obviously we know that fluorescents are also bad because those flicker, but LED lights, if you were to take your cell phone and to look at an LED light and do a slow motion recording of an LED light, and then you replayed it, you would see that it actually flickers almost, almost like an old movie where it's flickering, and you could actually see that. And I think that is a reason why there's people who have or in the migraine community who complain about LED lights because they seem to be more triggering. And I don't know if that has anything to do with our migraines, the ones that I get, because we did switch during, it was environmentally friendly. We switched out all of our lights to be LED lights when they first came out, probably about, I want to say maybe 8 to 10 years ago, we switched them all out. And around that time is when I was officially diagnosed with having migraines. Whether or not there really is a correlation or it's age related or hormone related, who really knows? But I do know that those are some of the things like environmentally that just aren't great.
Oh, I love that. That was so important for our listeners to hear, that things that are seemingly beautiful and well-intended, like these gorgeous windows and this revamped indoor space that's beautiful to the naked eye, can impact people with invisible diseases that we wouldn't necessarily know unless we live with it. It really speaks to how we have to be intentional when we're creating spaces in the world that are accessible and accommodating to people with multiple and various different types of abilities and disabilities, et cetera. So it really is a beautiful example because it from how you describe it, Danielle, a really stunning place that can really be impactful in a negative way for folks that like us that live with migraine. So I am really excited to talk about you leveraging these tactics and techniques and expertise. You developed this product called Zden. Can you talk to us about what Zden is and why you created it?
Okay, I'll start with the why I created it first. So I have really bad migraines, as you know, and my aura, so what triggers my migraines are light. So if it's very, very bright and glaring, and I should say that that's not on an everyday basis. So it has to be, if I'm not feeling maybe my best, then a migraine can be triggered by light. So it could be triggered while I'm driving. And the feeling that I get is an overwhelming sense of car sickness. That's the best way I could describe it. Like it's instantaneous, like I just stepped off the teacup ride at the amusement park, where I just feel completely nauseous immediately. When I'm at home, I have blackout roll down shades, and I also have shutters. But light can still show through the cracks and the seams of both of those, including blackout curtains, which I don't have, but I also know that that's a case. So when I was having a really bad migraine, it felt like the tiny little bits of light that were coming through the curtains were like a laser being shined in my eyes. So think of going to the eye doctor and they're doing an eye exam and they want to look into your eye and they shine the little beam or I'm not exactly sure what type of light it is, but they shine it into your eye and you can really feel it. Like it doesn't hurt, but it's definitely sensitive. You could feel it. It's very sensitive to your eyes. That's what it feels like, accompanied by nausea and pain that feels like your head is being squeezed into a vice. If that's the best way to describe it. When I was having a particularly bad episode, the extra light in the room, as small as it was, the light on the fan, the light on my phone charging, the light on the alarm system, all of those lights were really bothersome. So my husband and son came in and they hung up black plastic around the room. And not to sound inconsiderate, but while they were taking the time to hang up the black plastic, because my vision was affected and my head was hurting, my ears and the audio sound was extra sensitive. So even them just setting that up it felt like it was making my migraine worse. But when they got it all set up and it was very, very dark, a tiny bit of light here and there, but so subtle, it was like it was suddenly this perfect environment. And I laid there as I was finally being able to fall asleep because it was dark enough and I felt like I could just relax. I came up with the idea for Zden. And was to be able to create a space that was completely dark, pitch dark, but that you could set up on a whim and not have to say like, hey, can you come up and hang in this plastic? Or can we come in and put electrical tape on all the little lights in the room? Things that were inside that couldn't be changed. Originally, I thought like, oh, can I create this box that you could sleep in? But I didn't want a box, obviously, if you put your whole body in it, it's not something you can just pack up and then put away and have your room looking as gorgeous as it was before. And then also, it's not something that I felt that you could set up instantaneously as you're feeling horrible and you just want to lay down and relax. So Zden it's portable. It's pop-up, just like there's beach tents that are like this, there's camping tents that are like this, but the main difference is that it's completely blackout. It blocks out up to 99% of light. The differentiator, I guess, from blackout curtains is that it blocks light within your sleep space without having to have the light bleeds from your curtains, but it also blocks outside light. So if you didn't have blackout curtains and you had a skylight in your room, or you lived in a gorgeous loft and you had no curtains, no shades whatsoever, and you didn't know you were going to get migraines, but now you have migraines, and it's not like you're going to say, well, I'm going to move I can't, there's no window coverings I can put on my beautiful loft windows, this is kind of an alternative for that, where you can pop it open, you can crawl inside, it's your upper body and your head, and you can close the curtains and you can kind of have that quiet sleep space. It's not soundproof, but it kind of gives you this kind of, it for myself personally, like you're crawling into a space where it's peaceful and it's private and you can just finally relax. And in conjunction with your migraine medication or your regular regimen, you can go to sleep so that you can recover.
What I loved when I was looking at your website and reading up about the product was that it felt like it was like a little mini camping experience in your bed. It just had the same feel that I could imagine people that like weighted blankets could feel like they're secure and in a good space. And I just thought it was so interesting and cool that you took this pain and this issue that you were experiencing and you said, you know what, I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to use what I have in my head, the skills that I have to try to make my life better and ultimately other people's lives better. And I think that we all can find ways that we could do that. And you used environmental design. I use my voice in a podcast. So it's all different ways that as advocates we can, make the world better. So I love your story and just that you're using your talents to try to help folks.
Oh, thank you.
So is there anything about your story or Zden that I didn't cover that you think that we should?
Here's another comparison just to throw it out there. A lot of people say, well, an eye mask is similar, but I don't know. And this is me personally, but for me personally, when I'm having a migraine event, putting anything on my face that or anything around my head is not comfortable. It doesn't mean that an eye mask won't work for somebody, but an eye mask won't work for me personally. So I don't have to worry about having that pressure on my face. Although I get the dark environment, I can still blink my eyes, so I don't have to worry about dry eyes. I don't have to worry about the pressure on my face, so I don't have to worry about my migraine getting aggravated even more. I can actually just be comfortable. I feel like I'm sleeping in my bed at night in a pitch dark room. It's because it's very similar to that experience.
What I think is so common among those of us that live with migraine is that we do all these things at home to relieve our pain. I don't advise people doing what I did. I put my head in the freezer for like moments to try to like just relieve some pain. People have used bad clips on pressure points to help relieve pain. And it's just really, we're a very resilient and ingenious population because we try to really find ways to relieve it. And we're not actually vampires like some people might think we are. We do like sunlight. It just hurts us. Danielle, thank you for joining me on Talking Head Pain and sharing your passion for creating better spaces for people with migraine.
Great, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you, our listeners, for listening to Talking Head Pain, the podcast that always confronts head pain head on. If you like this episode, please give it an honest 5-star rating and subscribe so you never miss another one. I'm Joe Coe, and I will see you next time.
Be inspired, supported, and empowered. This is the Global Healthy Living Foundation podcast network.